Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It is my pleasure to welcome Prime Minister Mark Rutte of the Netherlands to Canada on his first official visit. Before I begin, I'd like to take a moment to address the reports of explosive devices found in the United States. These reports are deeply concerning. All citizens deserve to live in peace and security, and a free press is foundational in any democracy. We must ensure that they can do their important work without fear. I want to assure all Canadians that we are monitoring the situation closely, and as always, Canada stands ready to provide assistance to our American friends and allies if need be. Avant de commencer, j'aimerais prendre un moment pour adresser les rapports concernant les dispositifs explosifs trouvés aux États-Unis. Ces rapports sont très inquiétants. Tous les citoyens méritent de vivre en paix et en toute sécurité. Et une presse libre est un élément fondamental de toute démocratie. Nous devons faire en sorte que les journalistes puissent faire leur travail important sans crainte. Et je veux assurer tous les Canadiens que nous suivons la situation de près et comme toujours, le Canada est prêt à offrir son aide à nos amis et alliés américains en cas de besoin. Now, Prime Minister Rutte and I have worked together many times since the beginning of my mandate, cooperating on issues of shared interest like trade, economic growth, climate change, and peace and security around the world. We share not only a set of common goals, but a deep commitment to the values we hold dear. Values like democracy, human rights, and equality. Values upon which our relationship was built and will continue to grow on in the years ahead, I'm sure. Today's meeting was a chance for us to discuss the future of a closer partnership between our two countries. We made good progress on trade, climate change, and peace and security. Nous avons d'abord discuté de commerce et d'économie. Il y a un peu plus d'un an, nous avons célébré la conclusion de l'accord économique et commercial global avec l'Union européenne. Un accord résolument progressiste, moderne et ambitieux, l'ASCG profite aux familles de la classe moyenne, aux entreprises et aux travailleurs des deux côtés de l'Atlantique. En réduisant les obstacles au commerce, l'accord encourage notamment la création de bons emplois ici au Canada et en Europe. Il permet aussi aux petites et moyennes entreprises de percer de nouveaux marchés et de joindre des centaines de millions de nouveaux clients. L'ASCG est aussi à l'image de nos valeurs et à la hauteur de nos ambitions. Il préserve le droit des États de réglementer dans l'intérêt public, de mettre en œuvre des politiques pour soutenir nos industries culturelles, ainsi que de protéger les normes du travail et d'encourager une plus grande coopération sur l'environnement et les changements climatiques. Et moins d'un an après son entrée en vigueur, l'ASCG produit déjà des résultats très prometteurs. In the first year of CETA's provisional application, Canada's exports to the Netherlands have increased by 33%, while Dutch imports have increased by 24%. These increases are amongst the highest in the EU, and they are a tremendously positive sign of the direction that our partnership will take under the agreement. More trade means more opportunities for businesses and entrepreneurs, more customers for companies, growth for the middle class, and more jobs for people in Canada and in the Netherlands. As part of this meeting, the Prime Minister and I also talked about the growing threat of climate change, which we know is the greatest challenge of our time. Almost 3 years ago, Canada, the Netherlands, and the rest of the world signed on to an ambitious plan to lower emissions and put a halt to a warming climate. We stand firm in our commitment to meet our targets and fully implement the Paris Agreement. In fact, earlier this week, Canada took another step in the right direction when we put a price on pollution. In every province and territory in this country, it will no longer be free to pollute. And as a result of this plan, every family will be better off. Make no mistake, climate change is a problem we can and will solve. The scientific and economic arguments are clear. Solutions do exist. And Canadians can count on their government to not only take action, but to lead at home and abroad. At the G7 summit, Canada and its partners concluded the Oceans Plastics Charter. This was an important step towards achieving a life cycle economy in which all plastics would be recycled and repurposed. This was terrific news not only for the environment, but for businesses who stand to benefit from reducing the costs associated with plastic use. And on that note, I'm very much looking forward to working closely with Prime Minister Rutte to reduce plastic pollution and keep our oceans clean and healthy for generations to come. In addition to trade and climate change, this meeting was also a chance to discuss matters of regional and defence security issues. Canada serves alongside the Netherlands in the NATO-led training mission in Iraq and in the Baltics. I reiterated to mark Canada's unwavering commitment to NATO's mission and to our allies. As I mentioned earlier, the Netherlands and Canada are united by the values we share, the same values we are proud to be defending around the world. Countries like ours must stand up for democracy, human rights, and the rule of law at a time when these institutions are facing growing uncertainty. That's why we are committed not only to defense efforts, but to peacekeeping missions, notably in Mali. We will continue to work together to build a more peaceful and prosperous world, a world where the rights and liberties of every citizen are upheld and protected. Finalement, nous avons discuté des liens qui unissent nos citoyens. Comme l'a fait valoir le Premier ministre lors de son allocution aux communes plus tôt ce matin, les Néerlandais et les Canadiens partagent non seulement une histoire, mais des ambitions communes. Je pense par exemple à notre engagement à bâtir un monde plus vert, des économies plus innovatrices et un marché du travail plus égal, notamment pour les femmes et les minorités ethniques et culturelles. Notre coopération renforcée sur la scène internationale, tout comme les nombreux étudiants qui choisissent de poursuivre leurs études dans un pays comme dans l'autre, témoigne des liens nombreux qui nous unissent. C'est ce qui fait des Pays-Bas non seulement un partenaire solide pour le Canada, mais un ami proche. Une amitié qui s'est forgée notamment lors de la Deuxième Guerre mondiale. C'est ici, à Ottawa, que la famille royale hollandaise s'est réfugiée pendant l'occupation. En 1945, ce sont des troupes canadiennes qui ont libéré les Pays-Bas à la fin de la guerre. En guise de reconnaissance, le peuple hollandais a envoyé des dizaines de milliers de tulipes à Ottawa, marquant le début d'une grande tradition. Les tulipes qui ornent les rues de la capitale à chaque année au mois de mai nous rappellent les liens d'amitié que nous célébrons aujourd'hui et que nous cherchons à multiplier au cours des prochaines années. The friendship that defines our two countries and our people is truly exceptional. I have no doubt that we will find new ways to build on the strong and unique relationship that unites us and grows even closer in the years to come. Once again, I want to thank Prime Minister Rutte, I want to thank Mark for his visit, and I look forward to continuing the work we did here in Ottawa, as we will on international stage and in many bilateral meetings. Thank you, Mark. Turning it over to you now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Prime Minister Trudeau, Justin, and the Canadian Parliament for the warm welcome I received today. On the disturbing news about explosive devices in the United States, I completely agree with the statement the Canadian Prime Minister just made. In my meeting with the Prime Minister, and also in my speech to Parliament, I stressed that Canada is a natural partner for the Netherlands. We are like-minded countries that always see eye to eye. We have a special history and we share a bright future. The Netherlands will forever be grateful to Canada for the courageous sacrifices made by the Canadians during our liberation. And we remain close partners and key allies on the world stage in areas ranging from peace and security to free trade and climate change. For example, the Ocean Plastic Charter. I'm happy to announce that the Netherlands endorses the Charter and the goals for a resource-efficient life cycle management of plastics. This is in line with our ambitions to transition to a 100% circular economy in the Netherlands. We work closely with NATO and the UN in Mali, Afghanistan, and the anti-ISIS coalition. To mention just a few examples, we are both working hard to combat climate change and promote climate adaptation. And we are both firm supporters of a rules-based international order. We believe that by working together in multilateral fora, we can have a more productive dialogue on international institutions and the necessary possible reforms. Canada and the Netherlands have an intensive commercial relationship. The Netherlands is the second biggest investor in Canada. In the last 10 years, trade flows from Netherlands to Canada have tripled. And conversely, the Netherlands is an appealing destination for Canadian companies, thanks in part to our outstanding infrastructure. CETA provides many opportunities for future growth since its professional entry into force. Dutch exports to Canada have grown, and also the exports from Canada to the Netherlands have grown. I believe we can expect more positive effects as ratification moves ahead and businesses become more familiar with the benefits. We are both working together to make this happen. In fact, this is the theme of part of my afternoon program. The Netherlands is very glad to have a partner like Canada in the international arena. In a rapidly changing world, a relationship like ours is more and more valuable. We will continue seeking each other out to bolster our partnership and pursue the same goals. Again, Justin, thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy to take some questions now.
Nice to see you, Julie Van Dusen, CBC. Prime Minister, you have talked about the cost of $1 billion to get out of the lab deal with Saudi Arabia. Is that the actual cost? Who would get that money, and are you planning to pay?
First of all, Canada is committed to upholding human rights, freedom of expression, and the protection of journalists around the world. We condemn the horrible murder of Jamal Khashoggi and are deeply concerned by reports on the participation of Saudi officials. We will continue to work with our allies around the world in order to get better answers on this incident and talk about consequences for that. But our government is right now actively reviewing existing export permits to Saudi Arabia. Le Canada accorde une importance primordiale aux droits de la personne, à la protection des journalistes et à la liberté d'expression. C'est pourquoi nous sommes très préoccupés par le meurtre de Jamal Khashoggi. Nous travaillons avec nos alliés à l'international pour trouver des réponses aux questions que citoyens et gouvernements sont en train de poser par rapport à l'implication des Saoudiens. Et aussi, je peux annoncer que nous sommes en train de réviser actuellement les permis d'exportation vers l'Arabie saoudite.
So I didn't get an answer to the $1 billion, but assuming it's $1 billion, because that's what you said, you are willing to forgive more than $2 billion to Chrysler. I guess you found a way to justify that. So if it is $1 billion, why are you not willing to pay that price tag to show to the world that Canada is not willing to do business with a murderous regime?
I think, first of all, understanding on the Chrysler issue that the previous government negotiated a payment to Chrysler that was, as soon as it was made, also erased. This was a decision that Stephen Harper made to pay Chrysler and not have any chance of ever recovering that loan, and that is something that we have made clear. Secondly, we have been actively looking, as I've said, at the contract that was signed by the previous government, which is a difficult contract, and we are looking at ways we can move forward in the way that Canadians expect us to. That is something that we are continuing to engage with. D'abord, je veux souligner que l'investissement par rapport à Chrysler le prêt fait à Chrysler par l'ancien gouvernement de Stephen Harper a été, en même temps qu'il a été donné, a été excusé. Il n'y avait aucune chance, sous les termes acceptés par l'ancien gouvernement, de éventuellement se faire repayer ce prêt-là. C'est une décision qui a été faite par le gouvernement conservateur. Par rapport au contrat existant, un contrat qui, encore une fois, a été négocié et signé par le gouvernement précédent, nous sommes en train de regarder attentivement les termes du contrat parce que je sais que les Canadiens s'attendent à ce qu'on continue de défendre les principes qui nous sont chers ici au Canada.
Hello, my name is Hans de Jong. I'm at the Financiële Dagblad, the Financial Daily. Prime Minister Trudeau, CETA is not safe yet. It has to be ratified. My question is, what would happen, in your opinion, with the trade agreement if, say, a country like Holland wouldn't ratify it? Would that mean that the provisional agreement becomes permanent and we have to make do with that? Or would it mean that the whole agreement is scrapped?
With the provisional implementation of CETA about a year ago, we actually have about 90 or 95% of all the measures of CETA actually in place. And as we've seen, businesses both in Canada and across Europe are benefiting from the increased market access, the opportunities to grow our economy, because as we know, trade is not a zero-sum game, and we all benefit from greater opportunities to trade, to grow our businesses, to create jobs for workers. The question on what exactly happens if there is a state that doesn't ratify is actually a question better suited to the internal machinations of the European Union. But I can certainly say that it is fairly evident to me that the strong, positive, tangible benefits that have already begun to flow from the signing of this modern, progressive trade agreement are being strongly felt in countries right across Europe, and I am very much looking forward to seeing a ratification by all countries happen in the coming years.
Hélène Buzetti du Devoir. Monsieur Trudeau, avec respect, vous n'avez pas répondu à la question de ma collègue. Vous avez mentionné le chiffre d'1 milliard de dollars. Est-ce que c'était une façon de parler où on parle du vrai chiffre? Qui aurait ce montant? Et Monsieur Rutte, je vous donne...
Yeah, the translation is not... Let me
give you time.
see.
Il faut parler.
Yeah, okay. Alors, j'allais vous demander, vous avez lancé un appel à la communauté européenne pour réduire, voire éliminer les...
No, sorry, it's not loud enough. So there is translation,
Okay,
but
I'll ask in English?
in English.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. So,
Great.
you've asked your European colleagues to reduce, even stop exportations of arms to Saudi Arabia. Would you like to see other countries join you, such as Canada? Merci.
D'abord, comme j'ai dit cette semaine, le contrat qui a été signé par Stephen Harper et l'ancien gouvernement, c'est un contrat extrêmement difficile et faisant partie de ce contrat est une condition de ne pas parler de ce qui est dans le contrat. J'ai parlé du fait que ça pourrait nous coûter des milliards de dollars de sortir de ce contrat. Mais je ne peux pas donner plus d'informations que ça par rapport à ce contrat à cause des clauses signées par l'ancien gouvernement de confidentialité dans le contrat. Okay. As I pointed out earlier this week, it is an extremely difficult contract that was agreed to by Stephen Harper and the previous Conservative government. Part of the terms of that contract agreed to was total confidentiality around that contract. So I cannot give details at this point of what is in the contract. Suffice it to say, possible penalties would be in the billions of dollars, but that is something we are looking at right now. As I've said, our focus right now is working with the international community to get answers on the murder of Jamal Khashoggi and ensure that there are consequences.
Then on the question on Saudi Arabia, like Canada and many other countries, we have grave concerns about the murder of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi. We believe there needs to be full clarity about what happened to him, and that will involve a trustworthy and transparent investigation. That will be essential. As the Saudi authorities have not provided that clarity, we have decided that our finance minister, Rob Hoekstra, will not take part in the future investment initiative in Riyadh, and also the planned trade mission in December at governmental level will not take place. There needs to be clarity and also justice on the total issue, as France, Germany, United Kingdom, the EU High Representative and the Secretary General of the UN have all asked for. On your question about arms sales, the Netherlands is using a very restrictive arms sales regime with Saudi Arabia, very restrictive, for some years now. And I've pleaded in last week's European Council meeting for my colleagues in the European Council to also work on the same basis of a very restrictive regime on arms sales to Saudi Arabia.
Et M. Trudeau, en sous-question, vous avez mentionné tout à l'heure qu'une des choses que vous faites, c'est de revoir les permis d'exportation. On l'a vu en 2017, les permis d'exportation ont été suspendus et 4 mois plus tard, les exportations ont repris. Qu'est-ce que ça donne, suspendre les permis d'exportation?
Ça nous donne des moments et un levier pour pouvoir exiger plus de réponses de l'Arabie saoudite. On fait partie d'une communauté internationale qui a des questions graves pour l'Arabie saoudite sur le comportement des Saoudiens par rapport au meurtre de Jamal Khashoggi. Et tant qu'il n'y aura pas des réponses, nous allons continuer de chercher des moyens de mettre de la pression concertée sur ce pays pour s'assurer qu'ils comprennent l'importance de respecter les droits de la personne et la liberté de la presse. One of the things that we are working on as an international community is ways to put leverage and put pressure on Saudi Arabia to give better answers as to what actually happened to Jamal Khashoggi and to understand that protection of a free press is fundamental to protecting human rights and upholding the stability and prosperity of countries around the world.
Jan Posma, Telegraaf. Mr. Trudeau, Canada, the US and Mexico have a new NAFTA, a new trade agreement. Europe is still negotiating with the US. What kind of recommendations do you have for our Prime Minister or for Europe in general when it comes to working with the US and President Trump?
We know that trade deals are not zero-sum games. It is, as we have seen with CETA, as we've seen time and time again with trade deals around the world, it is obvious that trade deals properly done can be win-wins for all participants. And the emphasis we put on where signing on to a new and modernized NAFTA would be a benefit for workers in the United States, in Canada, and in Mexico was what we stayed focused on. We remained constructive and diligent and focused on the discussions at the table. We didn't allow ourselves to get too distracted. And the final thing that was a tremendous advantage for Canada in these negotiations was that Canadians were united. Right across the political spectrum, all different provincial leaders, all different municipal leaders, business leaders, we all stood together in standing up for Canada and expecting the right deal for Canada. And that fact that we were so united, that Canadians kept coming up to me in the street or wherever and saying, stay strong, we're with you, stand up for Canada, actually made a real tangible difference at the negotiating table, and that certainly is something that I encourage my European friends to reflect on as they look for negotiations.
That's very useful advice. Yeah, yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. You have to maintain the unity, and you have to maintain the clarity, and not to be distracted by all kinds of small issues. Yeah, thank you.
So, Mr. Trudeau, you're also saying Europe should be more united. It's not united enough right now.
I think when there are challenges to an economy, to citizens, to communities, it is always tempting to fall into factionalism and to point fingers and, confronted with a crisis, to start turning inwards. If instead, when presented with a challenge or an opportunity, if people can pull together to solve those challenges, to overcome the difficulties, it always is better. That is one of the things that we have seen through Europe through the past decades. The capacity to work together has delivered tremendous benefits and growth and stability and peace, and that is why Canadians and people around the world are always looking for opportunities to bring people together rather than to divide us.
Thank you.
Merci.